to Richby's Life's Adventures. Now, been and bought this. It's a cheap Chinese diesel heater. Now, as I've said in previous episodes, if you look back to my underfloor heating, I wasn't sure if the underfloor heating was really going to cut the mustard, so we installed it on the understanding that maybe in the future we'd have to install a diesel heater, air heater. Now we've used it for a good season now, the underfloor heating, and it's great. It's absolutely great at keeping the van warm. But it only works well when you get the fan blowing as well. But that fan with the heat exchanger is really greedy on energy. And when I looked into it, it's actually more efficient on electric to run a second diesel heater. Plus it will make this van toasty warm. Still going to keep the underfloor heating active because it's great at keeping your feet warm. And I always knew that the underfloor heating was not going to be very efficient at heating the van, but it is great at keeping your feet warm. So I'm going to keep the two in conjunction, and with the Nest controller I can run a hot water circuit and a heating circuit. So what I'll do is I'll run the Nest controller through this cheap Chinese diesel heater, so that Nest controller will run the thermostat and its Wi-Fi and app control, so I can still do it from anywhere in the world and through Alexa and tell it to heat my van to a certain temperature, and it'll trip in and out by using that thermostat. So I won't necessarily use the program that's on there. I may do initially, but then once I get it wired in, it'll be all via the Nest, and the program I'll just throw away or sell it or keep it as a spare or whatever. So I bought this Chinese diesel heater, £99 including postage and packaging. It's a 5 kilowatt air diesel heater. So I'm going to mount it underneath the driver's seat. Hopefully I'm going to mount it into the driver's seat. I haven't properly been under the floor yet to see where all the ribs and that are and the chassis members, but that's my goal anyway, to try and put it into there. If I can't, then I'll have to find somewhere else to put it. But it's very difficult with the underfloor heating pipes that I've put in. It's irony, isn't it? Finding somewhere to mount and cut through the holes of the floor for the heater. So I'm aiming to put it under the diesel, under the driver's seat floor. The floor does slope, so I'm going to have to make an adapter ring. I know you can buy them, but for the sake of welding a ring on the bottom, I can make that as deep or as short as I want to cope with the angle of the floor that's under the seat, and then the heater can seat level and that can still stick through the floor. I don't want any of the pipes connecting inside the van, because if there is any leaks, it's going to fill the van with carbon monoxide. So I want that to be all outside. So I'm going to go underneath the van first and see if I can definitely mount it there. But first I'm going to get this unboxed and I'll show you what's in the box. Right guys, so I'm going to unbox this. As you can see, I've not opened it at all, so for all I know there could be parts missing, it could be broken or anything like that. So I'm going to check it now. Sorry guys, little glitch of the camera there, I don't know what happened, but anyway, let's continue with unboxing. So there's a fuel tank. I'm not going to be using it because I've already tapped into my fuel tank. I'm just going to tee off from the existing heater because I want to run both at the same time. This is just for when it's really cold and we want to just get that extra boost of heating. So I'll pop a link in the description below. I paid £100 including postage for this. It was £99 something or other. So that's it there. It's a 5 kilowatt Chinese diesel heater. Does that sound promising already? Something inside it. What is that? And the top comes off quite easy. It's just Just unscrew the end and the top lifts out. What's in there? Something's in there. Now it's this sort of thing that would jam the fan up if you didn't take it out. That was inside it. Don't really know what that is. But anyway, I've got it out now. Whether it's important or what, I don't know. If that was laid around in there, and obviously if it got in that fan, it would block it up. And just hook that back in the back, click that down, screw the end back on. It's quite large, considering. What do you think, Deb? Is that going to give us some good heat?
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's red though, not blue.
Well, it's going under the seat, so it don't really matter. Right, so that's it. That's the box empty then. Just got this little box within a box.
More heating.
More heating. Like I've said in previous videos, I did the underfloor heating just because it's surplus heating from doing my boiler. Yes, I can run the underfloor heating separately. I can run it conjoined with my hot water tank, but it's not great at actually warming the van. Yes, the floor's very warm, but the van is still fairly cold. So we thought we might have to do this, so we've bit the bullet and gone for it. Yeah, so the fan that I've got for blowing the heating around, it's not very efficient power wise. It actually pulls about 6 amps, just over. Now 6 amps from a fully charged battery without solar will only give me about 3 hours of usage on using that fan. So I'm going to disconnect that fan and actually gut it out, and I'm going to blow this heater into that fan box so it uses the existing ducting that I've got in the van, plus it'll blow through the radiator that's in that fan exchanger. I'll explain it all better when I install it, but it will give that extra little boost to the underfloor heater and make it even better. Turbo charging. We're turbo in our heating, guys. So that's your air duct. That's like a plate if you was putting it onto wooden floor and so on, but we're putting it straight onto a metal floor. So I might use that for the underside just to give it a bit of extra support. Give it exhaust pipe, manifold, whatever you want to call it. Your inlet pipe, manifold, whatever you want to call it. You have a silencer for your inlet that just stops the suction noise and the roar from the induction side. You have a fuel pipe, which I'm not using because that's rubbish and no one should ever use that stuff, just throw it away. You have a vent that you can put on the side of your seat base or wherever it's going, but I might not be using that. You have a standpipe. You can either put that in your main fuel tank in your van or into this fuel tank, either or. What did you get here? This is your LCD controller. I don't know if I'm going to be using this because I might use my Nest controller to run this heating, and my hot water underfloor heating I'll run off the hot water side of the Nest controller. I can run 2 independent circuits off of it. But the only thing I like about this is remote control. But with the Nest I can do it from anywhere in the world anyway, and that's longer range than the remote control. So I don't know, I'll have a play around and this all your LCD screen and controller and stuff like that, but I might not use that yet. You have many fixtures, fittings. your fuel pump mount bracket, Jubilee clips, screws, pipe clamps, cable ties, you name it, it's in there. You have a T-section in case you want to go off to 2 different sides. I don't know, might not use that either. You get another thing so you can vent off to 2 different sides. I might not use them because I'm hoping to use the existing ducting that I've already put in the van. Seems a waste of time putting the extra ones in or taking them ones out. You have your wiring. Oh, this heater pulls less than my fan does, so taking the fan out and wiring this up, I'm actually going to be saving power but producing more heat. So I'll have a look in the manual in a second, tell you exactly how much power it pulls. Yeah, so that's your wiring. That's your ticker pump. It's a solenoid pump. It just dig, you know, pushes and pulls your diesel. That's your exhaust silencer. These are not very good. They're not very efficient. I've got another Herbispatcher one in the garage that I'll run, so I won't use that either because that's not going to be very quiet. And then you have an inline fuel filter, which don't look the best of quality. What's this bit here? I don't really know what that bit's for. Is that spare one for internal? I don't really know. But I don't know. I might use it because I've already got one in line anyway for the other one. I don't know. I'll see how it goes. So then that's it. That's the box empty. Let's just have a look at the manual and see if it tells me what amperage it pulls on full chat. Not tell me. It might be a case of me wiring a multimeter up to it once it's installed, but I know it'd be less than 6 amps. Right. So starting power consumption, I don't know if you can see that, starting power consumption 9 to 11 amps, where you expect that. And then once it's just running, it's 1 to 3 amps. So I'm going to be saving a bit of power there, because that fan, I've got just the fan, not the other heater, just the fan, that rests at idle when it's on full chat of 6 amps and peaks at 9 when you first switch it on. So okay, this has got potential to be a bit more, but the continuous amperage draw is going to be significantly less. So I'm actually quite happy with that. Plus it means I get to use this independently to my heating and everything like that, to my hot water heating or my underfloor heating. This is purely a backup. I've got a dog here that's being silly. Yeah, it's purely a backup for when it's really cold. When we normally do Whitby at Halloween, it does get bitter cold. Last year when we went, it was nice and warm in the van, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't hot. I'd rather have the ability to go hotter than I want and sort of be turning it down rather than pushing one boiler to its limits to try and keep the van hot. So I'm going to install that and I'll show you guys how I do it now. Okay guys, here we are underneath the driver's seat. Now obviously I've got that really great cross member there, chassis member, so the only place I can bring it out is in this void here. So I've got to try and make measurements for it to come out, not where that joist is there, that stiffener. I need to come out about here. So I've got to take measurements and see if that's where it is. If not, I'm going to have to come back, see if I can come out there, and I think that's more likely, actually thinking about it, more where it is, because that's more towards the front of the van. That's probably in front of the driver's floor. I'm going to make measurements and see where that comes out. And then even before I cut a big hole, I'll drill a small hole, because it's easier to plug a small hole with a bit of silicone than it is to cut like a 100mm hole and then try and block that up. So I'm going to take measurements, and then I'll see where that comes out, and then I'll drill a small sort of like 6mm hole or something first, double check that that's okay in central, and then I'll see if I can modify this mounting plate with a ring on the bottom. Okay, so I've done some measurements, and that grommet there is absolutely dead central between the main chassis member and the doorstep footwell, and there's probably about 130mm space. So what I want to do is actually come in front of that a bit, so that I just take that grommet out within the circle, and then that'll space it out that way enough. But what I need to do as well is double check on my heater how much of an offset the exhaust ports and that have, so I don't want to do it too far that way and then it don't fit within that the seat cage. So it might be that I've got to kick it forward a little bit more towards the front of the van. So that's my next point. So I know where I can go. Anywhere in line with that as the centre would be ideal. But now I need to find out how far back or forwards I need to go in conjunction with the size of the heater. Okay, obviously this is upside down to how it would be, but it's the right orientation. That's the air intake and that's the outlet. So to be able to fit that in, I've got to do the exhaust ports and inlet ports and fuel pipe inlets and all that. So the circle, I'm going to do it to about the size of this rubber. So let's say to the end there, it's exactly 165mm. So I'm going to allow a bit extra. So if I can do it 190, I think that'll give me a little bit extra. So then I can leave between the seat base and the start of my hole 190. So let's see where that orientates into the seat. Right, so 190, we take it back to there. Okay, so that'll be the start of the hole, and then it'll be 100mm or thereabouts. And then I need to see if the heater will actually physically fit under this seat. So if I said, would I say 190 to that? So now what I need to do, hang on a minute, it's difficult to do this one-handed. So 190 to roughly that rubber, and then to the end of it, let's say 410mm. But you want it to be able to draw air in, so really we want it 430 or more. So let's see how much space we have in there. I might be totally barking at the wrong tree and it won't even fit. Okay, I've just double checked the measurement at the height that the diesel heater will be at, and it's still 465. So there's more than enough room within there to hold that diesel heater. Plus it's a space that I'm not using for anything else, so I may as well use it for the heater. And not only that, it'll help keep the cab area warm and defrosted in hard winter. So I'll make a start then on, first I think I'll hoover and clean this area out, and then I'll see about modifying this base plate with a metal ring. So this is the base plate I'm on about modifying, and you can buy them like it anyway, but why buy one when I can just make this up at work? It's not an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a metal ring welded round there. Then I'm also going to plug up this little hole. I don't know why they've put that slot in there, maybe for a different model the fuel pipe is there, I don't know, but that wants plating, not unless I make the hole big enough, the circular hole to go around there. I don't know. I mean, I could weld a square hole in there, but that'd be harder to cut in the floor. As well, I could just buy a hole saw, bang it on. But if I do a square one, I'll do a square one. If I do a round one, I'll do a round one. Not really any hardship. So I might as well modify that one rather than spending 20 odd quid on another one. It'll only take me 20 or so minutes at work, save myself 20 quid. Okay guys, combination of ideas between Debbie and myself of ways we can do this weekend without having to go into work tomorrow is we was rummaging around our camping stuff and we found this. We bought it from the pound shop and we don't need it because we've got our T-fold Ingenio. So that is ideal. And again, so that I don't have to weld it, I've marked that up on there, as you can see, scribed around the holes, and then all I've got to do is drill those 5 holes out and then use a hole saw to cut those out. And then when I bolt this onto there, I can bolt through the saucepan to that plate, and I can even put a seam of silicone around there so it seals the plate to the saucepan. Now I can then drill out the handles of the hole, use my disc cutter to cut that lip off, and then I've got a heat proof that's all been non-sticked. Not that it matters about it being non-stick, but it'll be rust proof to an extent. And what I'll do is I'll just paint up these edges, and then when I cut this lip off, I'll also paint that. So that's my next step. I'll drill these holes, cut the handle off, and then run down here with my disc cutter. Okay guys, so I've got that made. I've trimmed down the lip. I ground the rivets off for the handle, but left the rivets in. So I've deburred it all, and that bit there sits just over the holes, and it also fits on there, and it lines up with all the holes. So that now gives me that shield, so that the floor can sit at an angle, but it'll still pull through. So what then I'll do is I'll lay a bead of silicone around here, because silicone's heat resistant, and then when I bolt this all through to the heater like that, and I've got that ass about face. So when I silicone, and that also blocks off that bit there, look. So when I silicone that all together and then bolt it to the bottom of the heater, it'll all be sealed and good. Before I do that though, I'm just going to give it a lick of paint. I know it's all non-stick and all that, but it's only a cheap pound thing. So this has cost me £1, and we bought it 3 years ago, just never used it. So that money's been right off now anyway. So I've deburred it. I'm just going to give it a bit of a rough up, give it a coat of etch primer, and then a coat of satin black or silver or any other colour. I mean, I know it's non-stick, so it shouldn't really take paint, but the cut edges it will take. So I'll get that done now. Okay, so I've given it a lick of paint. It's all dry now, but it's still a little bit damp in places, so I won't fit it yet. But give it a lick of etch primer, lick of metallic silver, and then a lick of lacquer. So cheap and cheerful, but it does the job. So why pay out for money when you have a camping saucepan? There we have it, guys. So I've got the saucepan. Excuse all the shoes. Oh, and this is our latest thing, that fur-lined Crocs. You gotta have some fur-lined Crocs for the morning, didn't you? Anyway, so we got the saucepan. Gotta keep calling it the saucepan. Fitted and silicone sealed, tightened up, and it looks as good as a factory bought shield. So then what I can do, I've just ordered up 135mm hole saw, which is what this is, 135mm. That will then, I'll cut the hole under the seat, triple checking my measurements before I cut the hole. And then once it's all bolted in place through these fixings here, in here, I'll then start mounting all the exhaust and the fuel. Now I've got to pack one end up because obviously, like I said, the floor is not level, hence the necessary use of this. If it was flat, I wouldn't have needed this. I could have just poked it straight through the floor. But once that's in place and the floor's at an angle and I've got this at level, it doesn't have to be level, it's just that I want the airflow out of this end to be as straight and direct as I can into that old heater box that I'm going to dismantle and take the fan out of, because I'm going to use that as a manifold to direct the air around. And like I said, it will turbocharge the underfloor heating as well, because it'll blow through that radiator that the water's flowing through for the underfloor heating. So not only will I have the boiler, hydronic boiler, I'll also have this heater heating the underfloor heating. So that flooring should get really hot now. Not that it's cool anyway, it's nice and cool, but it means that the hydronic boiler is doing less work, and it means that I'll probably only run the hydronic diesel heater for my hot water, hence why I'm going to run the hydronic boiler off the hot water side of my Nest controller, and this will run off my room air temperature thermostat for my Nest controller. So the Nest controller will operate both, and I can put the hot water on timer and this on thermostatically controlled. Because the controller for this has a fault reader on it, it must be like a CAN bus signal. The Nest controller, I'll tap this. This runs on a blue wire. The Nest controller is a yellow wire. I'll run that yellow wire to the blue wire of this. When the Nest controller calls for heat, it will send a live down there, kick this in, and then this runs independently. At first, I am going to run just the controller because I've still got to run a wire all the way from the back to the front. I've already got a live and earth here, but I haven't got a trigger wire because I didn't know I was installing this. A fool that I am, I knew I was installing this. I should have just put a trigger wire in. But hey ho, these things happen, and it just means I've got to find a route for a single wire, whether it be underneath the van or whether I can get it through some existing conduit. It's only one wire, so I think I can get it through. If not, it'll go underneath the van and through the floor. So the next step is then, when I get my hole saw, I can start cutting the hole in the floor.